those of you who know TEDx, it is a talk. It is on stage, but it's also a little bit different because you're held to certain parameters, right? Like you can't pace the stage. You have to be in the red dot. Like you have to keep it at a certain time limit. For mine, it was between 12 and 15 minutes, which means cramming a lot of things into 12 to 15 minutes. We had stuff we had to do. We had meetings with coaches. We had to be able to be there for dress rehearsals 2 and 3 nights ahead of time. So doing a TEDx really is a commitment, a well worth it commitment, but a commitment. But here's the thing, for me, I went out and I applied and I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do a TEDx. I want to be able to do this. This is a platform and a stage I want to be on. But then what happens when you get it? And you go, oh, now I have to produce. And you realize that what you're going to do is take years of research and experience and work and everything else and try and cram it into 12 minutes. Well, that's what happened to me when I found out. And I would have found out last December. So about a year ago now. And I remember standing in the kitchen with my husband and just being like, oh, well, this seemed like a good idea, but I guess I could just not do it. And he said, no, we're going to do this. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it so. And that began the journey. Getting to the stage was the easy part. Now, what the heck I was going to do when I was on the stage was the hard part. And that's actually how the evolution of this talk came about. Because I started going through all of the different iterations of not having self-empathy. Who am I to be on this stage? Well, who do I think I am to stand up and talk about this? Well, they must have made a mistake. They didn't want me. They must have wanted somebody else. I wasn't able to show myself the self-empathy that I needed because I was too busy judging myself. Remember, empathy and judgment cannot exist in the same space? Yeah, that's precisely what I was going through, was I don't belong here. These are some of the best TEDx speakers in the world. This is where Brene Brown was. I don't belong up here. And it actually gave me the opportunity to work through being able to be on that stage. During my TEDx talk, I talk about the 5 R's. And what these are in a nutshell is the 5 things you need to be able to give to yourself to be able to get away from that self-judgment and into self-empathy. And it's like recognizing, the habits, the self-judgment habits that you have in place, redefining them so that they don't control you anymore, reinforcing them with the things that you do so that you're doing it every day. And I was actually able to put this together as I was working through this TEDx talk. If you want them, if you go sign up for my newsletter, we'll send you out, the 5 R's so that you can actually have them at your hands, or you can go watch the TEDx talk either way. But the point is that I actually had to work through this myself. And that was something else I struggled with, because there's this idea that if you're the expert and you're the one that's talking about this, that you're supposed to be the one that has it all put together in a bag. And I didn't know the first thing about putting this TEDx together and doing it in 12 minutes. I've spoken before. I know how to speak, but it's one thing to be on stage and be like, okay, I've got 30 minutes to be able to get my point across. I got all these different things I want to talk about. I know what this audience needs, as opposed to you got 12 minutes, go. That was scary. So I had to really learn throughout the process to be able to show myself self-empathy, which I think actually solidified everything that happened in that talk. They talk about the transformation arc, right? How I was here and then this happened and then I got here. But the TEDx talk itself was a transformation arc for me. And I learned a lot about self-empathy in that process and being able to give myself the self-empathy that I needed, despite all of the experience and all of the time I'd spent on this topic and all of the research, still being able to stand up there and say, yeah, I'm the one that I can talk about this, It's interesting with the opportunity too, because I know some people that have put out hundreds of applications to TEDx's. And TEDx is very particular. That's neither good nor bad. It's just the way it is. So sometimes they won't take you if you're not in a particular area. Sometimes they won't take you, if they just don't feel your talk is quite a good fit. They really want someone that can come up with a topic that is going to change the way people think about things. So a lot of it isn't even necessarily your topic. It's how you talk about your topic in the applications. The whole application process is like a skill set unto itself. Actually being able to get there, I didn't have to do hundreds. I did in the 20s, which is pretty good, all things considered. But it was still a lot of applications that were out there and trying to get in a lot of different places. So when I got the call and they said, would you come and interview for this? I was excited, but I was also nervous. So, just leading up to that point and understanding what I was going to talk about was a journey unto itself. When I had to actually write the talk, because the group that I worked with, they wanted you to have check-ins every other week, which I think is smart. They wanted you running the talk ahead of time because they wanted to know what they were going to get in their speakers. There were 10 of us that were chosen. And our talks all had to be between 12 and 15 minutes. So all of us are going through this process of giving our talks and refining our talks and writing our talks. And one of the biggest challenges in writing this talk was getting rid of stuff. Brene Brown talks about that, how when she writes that, she writes her stuff and then she has to get rid of half of it. And that's exactly what I found I had to do. I had to figure out how to distill this into like the most potent part of what I say. And that was hard because I felt like I needed to say more. But I think that in saying less, it had a much greater impact.